We all know sugar isn't great for us, but what if I told you the real danger isn't just about gaining weight? It's about a quiet, invisible process that starts rewiring our hormones, damaging our organs, and changing our brain chemistry long before we ever feel sick. What's truly scary is how early this damage can begin, especially in our children. In this video, we're going to break down what excess sugar is actually doing inside your body. We'll explore why children are so much more vulnerable than adults, uncover the early warning signs that most people completely ignore, and look at the science linking sugar directly to chronic diseases. This isn't about fear. It's about understanding what's happening so you can take control. So, let's start with a crucial question. What does excess sugar even mean? The World Health Organization isn't talking about the sugar in a piece of fruit. They're talking about free sugars. These are the sugars added to foods and drinks, and the sugars found in honey, syrups, and fruit juices. Here are the recommended limits. For an adult, it's less than 25 grams, or about 6 teaspoons, per day. For children, it's even less. The reality? Many adults are eating 2 to 3 times that amount every single day without realizing it. And many kids blow past their daily limit before they even have lunch. A key fact people miss is that this damage happens even if you're not overweight. You don't have to be obese for sugar to be silently harming your body. Now, let's dive into the metabolic damage. Think of your body as a finely tuned machine. When you eat sugar, your pancreas releases insulin to help your cells use that sugar for energy. But when you overload your system with sugar day after day, your pancreas is forced to work overtime, pumping out insulin constantly. Eventually, your cells get tired of the noise. They start ignoring the insulin, a condition called insulin resistance. Now, the sugar has nowhere to go, so it stays in your bloodstream. Your blood sugar levels remain high, and your body starts converting the excess sugar into fat. This is the direct path to type 2 diabetes, and this process can start silently, years before a doctor ever gives you a diagnosis. But it doesn't stop there. Let's talk about your liver. Unlike other sugars, fructose, the sweet component of table sugar and high fructose corn syrup, is processed almost exclusively by the liver. When you consume too much, the liver gets overwhelmed. It has no choice but to convert that fructose directly into fat. This fat builds up inside the liver cells, leading to a condition called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, or NAFLD. This used to be a disease primarily seen in adults with alcohol problems. Today, doctors are diagnosing NAFLD in children as young as 10. This is a direct consequence of our modern, sugar-laden diet. Next, let's look at your heart and blood vessels. The connection between sugar and heart disease is undeniable, and it goes far beyond weight gain. High sugar intake is directly linked to increased triglycerides, a type of fat in your blood. It lowers your HDL, which is your good cholesterol, and it can even change the size of your LDL, or bad cholesterol, making it more dangerous. On top of that, sugar promotes chronic inflammation throughout your body, which is a major driver of arterial damage. Scientific studies have shown that people who consume a lot of added sugar can have up to a 3 times higher risk of dying from heart disease, even if they maintain a normal weight. Sugar is quietly damaging your arteries, setting the stage for future cardiovascular events long before any symptoms appear. Now, let's move on to one of the most concerning areas, the brain. When you eat sugar, it triggers the release of dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. This is the same pathway stimulated by addictive substances. This dopamine hijack creates a vicious cycle. It leads to intense cravings, reduces your impulse control, and builds tolerance, meaning you need more and more sugar to get that same feeling of pleasure. In children, this is even more dangerous. Their brains are still developing, making their reward systems incredibly sensitive. When their brains adapt to this high level of stimulation from sugar, it can lead to problems with emotional regulation and attention. But it's not just about addiction. Both animal and human studies have shown that a diet high in sugar can directly impair the function of the hippocampus, a part of the brain crucial for memory and learning. It reduces learning efficiency and increases brain inflammation. For kids in school, this can directly impact their academic performance and their ability to focus in the classroom. Sugar's impact also extends to our hormones and immune system. High sugar intake can cause a spike in cortisol, the body's main stress hormone. Chronically elevated cortisol doesn't just make you feel stressed. It actively promotes fat storage, especially around the belly, weakens your immune system, and disrupts your sleep. Speaking of immunity, just one high-sugar meal can temporarily suppress your immune system. It reduces the efficiency of your white blood cells, leaving you more vulnerable to infections for several hours. This explains why people who frequently consume sugar often report getting sick more often and notice that their wounds heal more slowly. So why are children at such a greater risk? It comes down to basic biology. Children have smaller bodies and a lower metabolic capacity. They absorb sugar faster, and their organs, brains, and hormonal systems are still in critical stages of development. The consequences are showing up earlier than ever before. We're seeing childhood obesity, insulin resistance, fatty liver disease, and even high blood pressure in kids. And we all know about dental cavities, but what's often overlooked is that they are a sign of systemic inflammation linked to sugar. The habits and metabolic patterns formed before the age of 10 are powerful predictors of whether a person will develop chronic diseases as an adult. So, what are the early warning signs we should be looking for? These signs often appear long before any blood test comes back abnormal. In adults, watch for constant fatigue, especially that crash you feel after a meal, intense, persistent sugar cravings, brain fog, or difficulty concentrating, unexplained weight gain, particularly around your abdomen, getting sick frequently, and experiencing mood swings, irritability, or poor sleep. In children, the signs can be a little different. You might notice cycles of hyperactivity followed by a sudden crash, difficulty focusing or paying attention, complaining of hunger shortly after eating a meal, getting cavities despite regular brushing, unexplained behavioral mood swings, and being excessively thirsty. These aren't just kids being kids. They can be your child's body signaling that it's overloaded with sugar. You might think, I'll just eat sugar in moderation. But here's why that approach fails for most people. Sugar is sneaky. It bypasses our body's normal fullness signals. It doesn't trigger the hormones that tell our brain we're satisfied, which actively encourages overconsumption. Plus, it's hidden everywhere, often in foods marketed as healthy like yogurt, breakfast cereals, granola bars, and even pasta sauces. Without actively looking for it, moderation is nearly impossible. So what can we do? This isn't about eliminating all joy from food. It's about smart, science-backed damage control. First, prioritize whole, unprocessed foods. This is the single biggest step you can take. Next, focus on reducing liquid sugars. Soda, fruit juices, and sweetened coffees are some of the worst offenders. Start reading ingredient labels to uncover hidden sugars. Look for words like corn syrup, dextrose, and cane juice. A great strategy is to pair any carbohydrates you eat with protein and fiber. This helps slow down the absorption of sugar and prevents those dramatic blood sugar spikes. And for parents, one of the most powerful things you can do is help normalize your child's palate to less sweetness from an early age. Small, consistent reductions can lead to measurable improvements in health within just a few weeks. Let's wrap this up. Sugar doesn't harm you loudly with a sudden bang. It harms you quietly, repeatedly, and it starts early. The most dangerous effects aren't the immediate sugar rush, but the slow, silent adaptations your body makes to survive a constant state of overload. Being aware of this isn't about creating fear. It's about giving you the power of prevention for yourself and for the next generation. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe for more content to help you live a healthier life.